Adonai, make us instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let us sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is discord, union. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, joy. O divine Master Adonai, teach us to seek not so much to be loved as to love, to be understood as to understand, to be counseled as to console. Excuse me, to be consoled as to console. For it is in pardoning that we are pardoned. It is in giving that we receive, and it is in dying that we rise to eternal life. So be it. Amen.
Amen. Hey, shalom, shalom, Akeem.
Shalom,
Shalom, shalom.
Hey, I gotta tell you, it's been a very interesting week, and I'm pretty excited for today's topic.
Okay, cool. Sounds good to me.
Yeah, man. All right.
Yeah, it's been real interesting to me also. But I've been busy putting up them videos, so and I'm happy what we're seeing. I just want to thank everybody for listening and watching and subscribing to the channel, man. I'm just really thankful and got a lot of gratitude for it.
Yeah, I want to echo that. I really appreciate the support. Had a remarkable opportunity to really home in on some research, learn some different things, and I think one of the bigger parts of it all is being able to share the application from what we put out every week.
Okay. And I also would like to third that motion, just thanking everybody for tuning in. Like, there's so many things going on in the world, so many places to be, so many things to do, so many distractions to indulge yourself in. But you chose to be here with us. So I'd like to say namaste and much love and light to you all.
Indeed. So I'm gonna go ahead and light this one off. All right. This week I want to introduce a concept called the 7 spheres of influence. And to tag along with that, we'll also discuss the independent path of spiritual initiation.
Okay.
So what y'all think about the 7 spheres? And obviously, like we had the opportunity to look into it, but what do you think about it on your, initial self-introduction to the concept?
When I first saw it, when it was mentioned by Denzel last week, and then I did some looking into it, I felt like it would have been a heavy topic, just on all the areas that it touches on, which we will get into shortly. But after further review, I think it'll actually be good, for those who are listening, for those here on the fourth principle to actually go back and forth on these concepts and principles. So, yeah.
Yeah, one thing that I got from it was, I look at these ideas as different vehicles that can bring about a good change, not only in culture, also societal identification practices. I mean, the entire society can benefit from, our input in these areas. So, like, one thing that I've noticed within the community is, like, I'm just, specifically like about people of color, right? We have a lot of influence in a lot of different areas. Yet, the condition more or less remains the same. Meaning it's like, it seems like, we repeat the same songs over and over and over again. And, everybody's looking like, hey, well, when are things going to change for us? So, I think as we dissect each one of these, we can open up some channels. And by what I mean by channels is, we got some paths where we can illuminate, our abilities to make things better in this particular experience. If you're willing to do that.
It's a choice.
It is a choice.
Right. Well, when I was looking at it this week, it's kind of almost like it's kind of a control factor to me a lot when you go into it. And I don't know if it's, but to me, everything can be an influence. You can be influenced by a lot of things. So to enhance your culture or your understanding of your own culture, and it will probably more likely help you probably understand what's going on in the world or within your wherever place you're at in the world.
Let me ask you this real quick.
Go ahead.
Before you go forward. Like, do you think it even matters to be concerned about what's happening in the world? And like, we're gonna tie all this into the 7 spheres of influence, but like, given the current cultural consciousness amongst people of color, right? Do you think it's important at all to be concerned with, I'm gonna say, the happenings within the world?
Right. I'm gonna say to the point, I would take the middle ground with it. It depends on who it is. If they're easily influenced about things that's within the world structure, I would say you shouldn't if you're easily persuaded on certain things, because it can make you we'll take world news or what have you, and world news is when they show certain things on the news that doesn't. It's almost like a bad thing they show, because most of the time it's just murder, certain things like that, right? So when you're talking about should we have these understandings or going into these things, I'm to the point. Me personally, no. I don't worry about what goes on in Russia.
Oh.
I don't worry about what's going on in Afghanistan because I'm not there. So, and a lot of times I live right here in America and I'm not concerned about a lot of stuff like what they would call politics. I really don't care.
It's interesting.
Okay. So Kane's point is like, it depends. I guess it's relative to the individual. Okay. What say you, Zach?
It's a paradox.
I think that's gonna be your.
I guess that's who I am. That's where my consciousness lies. It's seeing the pros and cons in both sides. It's seeing the benefits in both sides. And I say that meaning I don't keep up with the news personally. And when I do watch the news or get wind of it, it's either through, peers, at work. If I'm in the gym, I might look at the screen and I see, it might be the State of the Union. It might be the State of the Union. And I keep saying my mic is fine. Yours is just lower.
Mine is?
Y'all might just have to speak up.
Yeah. Yeah, fine.
Right. So, it might be the State of the Union, being in the gym, looking up on the screen, and I see that. And the thing is like, until I know the world that I'm involved in, my surroundings, my immediate area, I still get information from my peers. And if I deem it interesting enough, I might go look into it. But that's more on my desire to to plug myself into that system or that aspect of reality. It's not saying that it doesn't exist or that the passion somebody may have about, being a Democrat or Republican, or there's fires in California or an earthquake over on the other side of the world. It's nothing wrong if you choose to interact with that. However, what are you doing in that interaction? Are you actively sending money to those places as relief? Are you actively do you believe that your vote matters? You know what I mean? And I guess if you believe it, then that's your reality. For somebody like me, it's like, well, I mean, I'm 45 years old, and I ain't trying to rub anybody's shoulders on the voting thing, but it's.
If you believe it.
If you believe it, you shall achieve it. So being again in that seeing the benefits of the shortcomings of both perspectives is paradoxical. I mean, you want to wear a mask? Do you feel a mask protects you?
Yeah.
Then wear the mask. It protects you. If you don't want to wear a mask and you feel like you're safe, then don't wear a mask. It makes me never mind. So
according to your belief, shall it be given to you?
King.
All right. So check it out. Right, here's the 7 spheres. Some people might call them the 7 mountains. Right, family, religion, education, government, business and economics, art, entertainment, and media.
Could you repeat them one more time?
Sure enough. Family, religion, education, government, business / economics, art / entertainment, and media. Now, after hearing these 7, right, which one would you say like we probably have the most influence in right now?
Depends on who you're talking to.
I'm talking to you.
Talking to me?
Yeah.
Well, none of them jokers influence me, bro. The only thing influenced me is, and it's not up there, and I would say spirituality. But if you want to take about religion as one of that steps, but, me personally, religion is a little different on how I look at certain things between religion and spirituality. It's one and the same, but it's truly to a certain point is a little different. So the main one I would be concerned with me would be, like I say, spirituality.
But as a whole, though, so like I'm a take it a step further past just us 3, right? When you look at people of color as a societal class, right? Which one of these spheres do you think we have the most influence on? Like what has the most, I'm gonna use the word popularity amongst people of color?
Well, we spend a lot. We spend a lot of money. So it can go down to economics. Now, they say that we don't, we make less money or whatever, but we spend more money than probably most.
Does that mean that we have, influence in, economic trends? And
could you ask the question one more time?
All right. The question is, of these 7 that I just listed, which one do you think people of color have the most influence over?
All of them. All of them. I would say just the way the country's set up, it's impossible not for people of color to have an influence on anything.
Okay.
Any of them. It's impossible.
Whether
say again?
What would be the main one?
I think
we get we're all in that.
I would say all of them.
Main.
So I'm just going to give a snippet of my thought. Government, whatever policies drive the United States, whether we vote or don't vote, whether whatever statistics we are in what you would say crime, if we high or low, it's revolving around us on some levels. Economic, science, technology, and business. Man, all of them. All of them. I think for not speaking Tuzo came before. I would just say to a person that thinks that we don't have any influence in them, it may be based on the perspective of how you're looking at, let's say, economics, sciences, and business.
All
A
right.
lot of
So when I'm gonna quantify influence, right? Influence that affects positive and consistent change for the community.
that would for people of color.
Yes.
Now you shifted the dynamics of thought.
I mean, because what you said is correct, right? I think that it is impossible to exclude people of color and their influence in these categories completely, right? There is some level of influence in all of them, right? But when you look at, or if you examine the social condition of people of color,
Right.
which one of these, does our influence directly impact positive and consistent change?
For who? For us?
For people of color.
I will have to put more thought into that as far as positive. Sheesh.
You want me to quantify that too?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So when I say positive, right, you have the onset that, I'm gonna just use this word for the sake of conversation, right? You have the onset that things like suffering or things like disadvantage, that rationale is decreased.
You said increase or decrease?
Decreased. Right? So there's less suffering or there's less disadvantage because of your influence.
And you're talking about as a whole,
As a whole.
as a collective.
As a collective.
Bruh. That's tough.
Okay.
Because if you're just talking about us,
I'm talking about people of color.
people of color.
And we
But
can only
it's-
speak for
that-
the areas that we
Right.
known in our existence in this life.
Right.
I mean, all good.
Can't speak for all of them.
I mean, but that's what's relevant for us today and right now.
Well,
I understand.
like Kazak said, we're all wrapped up in all of that. So if all of that we're wrapped up in, and it comes down to a position of making us to a point of a lower state, I would say all of them can affect us at a lower state or a higher state or a higher consciousness. It depends on what people. If we're talking about a whole, is to me is really hard to quantify. To me,
Okay.
because I can look at the religion part, I can look at the or the religion or spirituality part. I can look at the politics part, because they make stuff just for us,
So let's do
not
this.
for everybody.
Let's just do this right here, right? Let's talk about the family dynamic.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So, in your opinion, and I'm going to take out the consciousness of people of color
Okay.
and I'm going to apply it to the family structure.
Okay.
How does our consciousness affect, or what effect does our consciousness as people of color have on the family structure?
For people of color.
Yes. What do you see?
Okay.
Single parent households.
Okay. So you say single parent households.
Okay.
Okay.
Parent households. You see some people that don't have a lot more money than most blacks. I mean, most other people in that, in that situation. You have poor. You got some people that's what they would call poor, and then you have people that has a lot of money.
So you're talking about like different social classes,
Right. You have-
economic classes.
right. Which is economic.
I'll say this, because it's hard for me to speak on a whole when I haven't been around United States to see the whole.
Okay.
I can only speak of what I've seen, which is
Okay.
experiential. And again, coming to the States, being in a West Indian, or my West Indian household. Let me say it like that because everybody's not the same, even though I say West Indian. So I seen a lot of based on the principles in Christianity, from the older generation. I'm I guess first, second generation, because my mom, then me. So I've seen people that come from a culture, right, that is grounded in what we consider Christian principles. I'm not gonna say they're fully Christian, but Christian principles is very much put together.
Okay.
And that's also in the South. I see that, whether it's what we call a single family household, that the family still kept everything together. So from my example is my mother, but then I have my uncles, then I have my grandmother, still had I still had a relationship with my father, but not few and far in between because he was still on the islands. Seeing my grandfather. So I still saw interaction. And then coming to America, I was in Yonkers. So I grew up with a lot of Dominicans and Hispanics, and same principles. They were very, from what I saw, structure and mother, father was there.
Right.
So it's not until I got a little bit older and moved to Florida and then started seeing more single family households, but even then you still had a connectiveness of the community.
Right.
So
which I would say we may not have right now is a connection of
the community
when we're talking about a single parent household. Now, I'm not saying single parent households is bad because I'm basically come from one.
Right. Likewise.
But my mother did remarry, so it did put some a father figure in the house or what have you. But that doesn't mean that I didn't have a connection with my father.
Right.
But he always came through when he came through. Me personally, I wasn't really looking for him to come through, but when he come through, he came through, and we built or whatever. We had our issues, but sometimes we didn't.
Right. It's interesting because we can say we've touched on that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, our results aren't what we see magnified on social media, what's magnified in the media, what's magnified in some cases by people around us.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So
which those items those are the dynamics that portray influence. Those things which are magnified, or those things which gain the most attention.
Right.
So if we're talking about the things that gain more attention and things that are more gain more traction, then we're going to talk about a lot of negativity. You see what I'm saying? And I this platform and knowing you brothers where we stand, we don't promote negativity. Right. So when the question like you're asking, it's hard to wrap your head around it when you move in circles that maybe you have touched it, maybe you have been a part of it at some point in your life. But as you've grown away from it.
Right. So, as you grew away from it, right, you, based on whatever that influence was and how it affected you, right, you landed on a path where you created positivity.
Right.
And then because of what you created or because of what you were introduced to, right, you then connected with other like minds to shift that paradigm.
And on the contrary, what I've seen is those who have not been able to disconnect from a certain mindset, they still connect with others of that same mindset to keep the perpetualization of that lower frequency or vibration of thought.
So what I'm hearing in is that the influence generally, right, is a perpetualization of that thought process, which is not going towards a direction of change.
Yes.
Rather, it's, well, you know what? It's all good if our households are broken.
Right.
It's all good if our family structure is inculcated in in a thought process where it's okay for us to not deal with each other, not talk about the issues that we might have, so on and so forth. Right? It's not pervasive in media where we actually sit down at a round table, right, and we learn how to problem solve through complexity that comes up in the family.
Right. Which goes back to when I said all of these things influence us. I couldn't think of anything necessarily fully positive.
Got you.
Because the influences. So let me go back a bit when you said thought process.
Right.
When you say thought, I think automatically vibration, energy, and frequency. So let's substitute thought with those words.
All good.
You're saying that people they're in a certain frequency, and they continue to perpetuate that frequency and that vibration amongst each other, which comes down to the education, the music or entertainment, so on and so forth. So it's like I have friends that, I could say we have like minds, but at the same time, they may have more groundation in that kind of mindset. So I have to protect myself. And I hate using that word, but I have to be very mindful of what I feed into.
Well, don't hate using the word. What it is that, you've learned how to navigate through frequency.
Right. Discernment.
Right. Which, I think that's the key point that we take away or we extract from what you're talking about.
Right.
Right. You learn how to, okay, well, you know what? That frequency right there, I'm not going to be able to, I'm not in alignment with that.
I'm going to throw a monkey wrench at you.
Okay.
Because it's been said to me. So how do you know you're not stopping yourself from learning something new or experiencing something that you could come out learning something from? You know what I mean? Like certain types of music. You may not listen to a certain type of music, and I'm like, man, you should listen to it because it's good. Or certain types of shows, or just different experiences that you may have an idea about, but you haven't watched it, so you can glean something new, and it may be educational and informative to you. How do you know you're not? How do they say? Stopping a blessing.
Well, that's to assume that you consciously or subconsciously get in your way from learning, even though you make a choice not to tune to a certain frequency.
Say it again.
That's to assume that learning stops.
Okay.
Whether you get in the way consciously, like that you're doing it, or you don't and you do it unconsciously. That's to assume that. Well, you're not learning.
By not going through this door,
right?
You could be missing out.
That's an assumption.
That's a complete made up construct, because even by not going through the door, you're still learning something.
You're still learning.
You just may not be choosing that class to learn from.
Right. And what's to say that you haven't went through that door before?
Right. Especially when you get on the other side and you know that you already been through
right.
that.
But now you can't go back through. You got to experience what's on that door.
And you have to,
because you made a choice.
You made that choice.
No, right. Normally what'll happen is, right, and this has been my experience, until you have learned the lesson, you're gonna keep going through the same door. I mean, and again, that's tuning into self. Right? How certain practices affect you, how certain frequencies influence you, right? All of that.
It's we've had these conversations before, and it's tough because, the same way you want to look out for other people, they want to look out for you. So you might be telling them, hey man, like, listen, like, a statement I've said is, I'm far removed from that.
Right.
And it's offended people. And it's not to say is anything wrong with you being in the midst of it.
Right. It doesn't.
It's just that's not a frequency I want to vibrate on. And it's not to say I can't teach the person something, because that would be the argument back, right? Like, when that's an opportunity to show the person that's in the midst, that they, share your experiences and how you got here. But at the same time, if a person loves to be there, I've learned that it is not for me to try to make someone see my perspective. They have to give.
if they want it, generally, people will ask for your help. If they don't want it, they won't ask.
Okay. I mean, it's just like when I was saying that I don't see single parent households is a bad thing. Sometimes they have to experience that.
I hope we didn't. Did we say that? I don't think we said.
No.
Oh, okay.
No, we didn't say that. I'm just want to make it clear that because we're talking about the negative, because somebody could take that as a negative thing because there's only one person in the household, which they do because I hear it on the news.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But to me, no, they have to experience something. So they're still learning something in the process.
It's all
Now,
learning.
Right. So when these children get to a certain age, it's not how you were brought up. It's their choices that they made. They the ones make these choices on being influenced by certain things.
Now, to dive into that a little bit more, right? And I'm not going to necessarily get into statistics right now, right? I'm just going to say general things for the generalization of the conversation. Okay, so when you take the statement that you said and you look at households who are influenced either by three categories, either married couples, single mothers, or single fathers, right? And let's put the umbrella of decision making over these three households.
Right.
Right? What does that look like as the next generation develops? And again, this is, I'm talking about the influence of each one of these dynamics.
Right.
Right? And how that ties into decision making.
It's interesting, right? Because you have to take all these paradigms and we got to look at each and every paradigm and what thought these people come from. Now, and like you say, I can only go on my experience of what I've seen. I've seen both.
Right.
I've seen single parent household, a child from that go in a direction that may not be well fitted for his ideas. But I've also seen a two-parent household, and this person gives a choice. He takes a choice, and it's detrimental to him.
I've seen the same.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So to me, it's really about the person who's making these choices. Now, I'm on a different lane right now because when you got two-parent households, that don't mean you're going to have the outstanding child of the century. That's not going to work. Sometimes that don't work. Trust me, I know. I've been there. I'm there. I've been there. That don't because of a two-parent household is there. It always comes down to the child's decision on what he's gonna do.
Now, I'm gonna ride with you on this for a second, right?
Go ahead.
I think the desired outcome is that decision making is better for the individual, right? Where you're brought up in an environment where you cultivate your decision making properly.
Right.
So for an example, thought forms. I think Zach touched on it earlier. The thought forms that you have, they influence how you make decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the dynamics, whether it's married couples, single fathers, or single mothers, right? There's a sphere of influence there about how you associate, your ability to make a decision based on those dynamics.
I would use the word how you express through those dynamics.
Okay.
It's an expression. Like if a person that's raised with mother and father, it's an expression that's coming from that dynamic. A person who's just raised with their mother, and I'm speaking whether you're male or female or both. It's an expression that comes from that dynamic, and there's so many other influences around that You may have uncles in, like I said, I had uncles in the house, or you may not. You may have more aunts than uncles. You may have a mixture of both.
Right.
And then likewise with a single father raising his children, it's an expression that comes from that. And then you have those other dynamics that circled around that. So ultimately, and I know we're going to get to the statistics later, I think that choice is very, very big in how that expression manifests into the world.
Right.
It's funny because I was in Florida around Christmas time this past, New Year's, Christmas time, and I made a statement to my uncle. And if he's watching, I'm listening to you, Unc. Sometimes it may seem like and this is the one that we go back and forth.
Oh yeah, bro.
Uncle Ronald. I'm gonna drop his name, Uncle Ronald. And I said, if a person wants to be wealthy, they should. You don't take advice from somebody that's broke. Maybe they could give you information about what happened, why they broke, but you want to surround yourself with wealthy people or business people or people like that. He said, you believe that?
Right.
I said, I would like to think that's the truth. You surround yourself with like minds and so on and so forth, and you succeed in that area. He said, well, you come from a God-fearing household.
Right.
Your grandmother was a God-fearing woman. Your mother's a God-fearing woman. Your uncles, me, I'm a God-fearing man.
Right.
That has influence on how, when you go out into the world, how you're gonna express. And I'm paraphrasing.
Right.
And I was quiet.
Yeah,
because he got me. And not in a bad way.
No,
it really,
right.
You know how I get. I go into that place and I'm like, you right, Unc.
Right.
It's a balance.
It does have an influence on you
Okay.
to a certain extent,
Yes.
right? Because goals, ideas, and identity, they change the further you go away from the family. You meet new people, you embrace
right.
different identities, and you embrace different ways to do things.
Right.
So he's right.
Yeah.
It did influence you,
Right.
right? And I probably would echo something that you said last week. It established a foundation
Okay.
of
Yes.
which, when it's all said and done, that's probably your check and balances for your decision making. I mean, because as far as as long as I've known you, right, you've always done that, right? You always go back to, well, I feel what you're saying, but that's not really aligned with, how I'm structured to do things.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like, that's absolutely correct.
Yeah. And it's not that you can't learn from somebody that don't have money
Right.
to get rich, because you can see them and say, oh, I don't want to be like that.
Right.
Let me change my choices. And you change your choice. Next thing you know, you may end up being a millionaire.
Right.
So, to me, like I say, every situation is a learning situation. Whatever situation you're going to be in, you're going to be learning, you're going to be experiencing. Your mother may experience something totally different than what you experienced
Right.
in that lane.
Right.
Even from your father. A lot of times your father may set a path for you to follow after him, but that doesn't mean you have to.
Right.
Because it all comes down to learning and experiencing these ideas or these things.
No, I was gonna throw a stat out there real
ahead.
quick.
Okay. Go ahead.
Right. So you used the dynamic about making money. Somebody said that.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
So like, I'm gonna use this term, right? But don't get caught up in the term. I'm just reading off what the statistic says. So for like blacks, okay, the median household income for United States households, right, is $46,400.
Right.
A border analysis shows that 52% of all U.S. households earn less than $50,000, while 48% make more than $50,000.
How many percent more?
I'll read it again. A border analysis shows that 52% of black U.S. households earn less than $50,000, while 48% make 50,000 or more.
Okay.
3 in 10 black households, 31%, make $75,000 or more, including 20% that make $100,000 or more. So the point of me reading that is, it's like, okay, you said, well, you can learn from a broke person. You know, well, I don't want to be broke.
I don't want to be that.
I don't want to be that.
Right.
Right. But based on, and you know, all of this data is subjective to your understanding of it and like what you think of it, right? But as it's reported, right, not many of us are over the threshold of $50,000.
Right.
That's just, but you know, I think you said it earlier, right? We probably spend the most.
Fact. I'm gonna tell you right now, we do.
Probably the largest consumer basis ratio.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying, amongst a group of people.
Right. And the thing is, these businesses know that. Go look at your neighborhood signage or your billboard and see who face up there. When it used to be Caucasian people up there, now you see a lot of black people faces up there, or what you would call African American people faces. Take notice. Somebody out there, y'all take notice of it.
And if you're listening, right, you know, we're only discussing this is because, you know, on a large scale, this is what I hear people of color talk about.
Right.
You know, I want to do better for my family. You know, I want to do this, or I want to have this for my family.
Right.
Okay. And it's not to bash or, you know, talk down on anybody, right? But this is what the numbers say, right? These are the statistics that, you know, demonstrate this data.
Right.
You know, so as we go back into the influence, right? That this first sphere of influence, right, with family. Zach made some good points about, well, he made a point about coming from a God-fearing home, which is told Mayo very good.
Right.
Right.
You God-fearing, brother?
Oh, I don't fear God. It's developed over time. I don't fear God. I fear me.
You know what? That's another topic.
Right.
That's another show.
Yeah, just jot that one down for the next one.
That's gonna be another show. Facts. You know, a lot of people think that, but yeah, I get that. Go ahead.
But what influence did your family play in your financial literacy?
Right.
Is that a question?
I mean, you can choose to answer it.
Well,
you know, it's all good. I mean, I'm just based on what we're talking about, and you know, economics is just one portion of the family structure.
Right. Well, for me.
Wait, and if I can add, right, I probably even suggest that, you know, because we probably lack some of that education, it's the reason why people move in a lot of fear-based actions. So they might take things from people that don't belong to them,
right?
Thus creating a cycle where they, you know, they at a disadvantage.
Right.
You know what I mean? But there's ways to learn how to do things economically if you're willing to do that. So again, you know, you might have saw something, you might have heard something, you might have seen people act a certain type of way, and that could have influenced the decisions that you make,
right,
as it pertains to money.
Right.
Yeah.
Go ahead. It's okay.
Well, so. I would say this. I think it did have an influence on me in my coming up, but I think it had always been in me is to run my own business and do my own thing. It's just something I just can't. I'm not the one for people to tell me what to do. Let's say that. I have an issue with that sometimes, but maybe that's just me and I need to control that a little bit more. But I've always thought that having my own business, moving differently than most people just going out and having a job. But what happened was when my mother got remarried, it happened to him and his family. They had their own business, which was a family business. So it really just took me to a whole nother level to say, okay, well, I definitely can do this. If my stepfather's father done this and he done it without an education, with a fifth grade, dropped out at fifth grade or whatever. And if he started this business, I know I could go out here and start a business with no problem. But those are the things that helped me go into doing a business. But like I said, it always been in me.
So I'm gonna throw something at you, right? What you're describing is what psychologists would say, either the associative network or the priming effect.
Okay.
Right? And the priming effect, it occurs when, an individual's exposure to a certain stimuli influences their response to a subsequent stimuli. And that can happen whether you're aware of it or whether you're not aware of it.
Right.
So like you were saying, like you saw somebody in your family do something, right? And because you saw that, as you went out,
Right.
You responded to that type of awareness
Right.
based on what you saw.
Right.
Now, whether or not that, that was, it gave you dividends or not, that's something for
Right.
completely later, right? But
Right.
I think that the priming effect for people of color, I think we all get caught up in that.
Right. Right. And like I say, it comes down to choices. Because everybody that came through that paradigm that I came through, a lot of people came through it. A lot of them didn't want to own their own business. They just wanted to work.
So what I'm gonna say is that those certain stimuli are often related to words or images that happen on a daily routine, and you see it or you hear it all the time. So like all you got to do is, or they did this and that worked for them,
If
and
you want X, Y, and Z, you got to work hard.
right.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So boom, that's just one dynamic.
Right.
The economic or financial literacy / stability within, this particular household, people of color.
Right. Yeah, that's good, man. I hope people's getting this. I'm hoping the listeners getting it, because it's so much in it that will take us away from certain dynamics. Because once somebody put the thing out there that, no, this is negative, we are hot right on it. That's the first thing we'll do. We'll hop right on that. And I'm like, yo, what are we doing? No, don't hop on that. Go to the other box, or get out that box or that mindset that puts you in that situation. You need to get up out of there.
In Hebrew, the word is shub.
Turn.
Right.
Or in English, they say repent.
Or repent, which means which only means changing of the mind.
Changing of your mind, changing of your frequency, changing of your vibration.
Can I throw another word in there?
Go ahead.
It's a radical.
words
It's
around.
it's a radical change in mind or behavior.
Radical.
And a lot of times we can say, well, I'm going to change my mind, or I'm going to change my frequency on something, right? But we procrastinate.
I was just gonna ask you, like, if somebody was to do a radical change, how does one do that? Because it's people that talk about, I need to lose weight, I need to start working out, I need to start my own business, I need to I need to draw.
What did Yoda say in Star Wars?
There is no try.
You either do it or you don't do it.
Right.
And
So would you say you shouldn't even say it out loud if you ain't gonna just do it?
No.
You shouldn't even be like, man, I've been thinking about, man, you should just shut up.
you just go do it.
But this is the thing. Once you say it, you put it out in the universe.
You already put it out there.
You put it out there.
Right.
Now
It's a follow-up.
If you don't follow up, it's something else coming back.
Well,
I don't know what it is, but it may come back.
What's going to come back is what you deeply hold as your conviction.
Right.
In reference to the thought.
Right.
Like, and I've been there, right?
Which caused a dis-ease.
Yeah. But that's what you hold as the deep conviction.
So the manifestation of your choices, or you could say what you didn't choose to do, what you didn't put action behind your deepest conviction, is what you're living.
Right.
That's exactly what you're living.
But see, where I think where we get caught up is we have not yet learned how to discern between the two. So what I think is like, this is where I'm gonna throw this in here, right? This is where the independent path of spiritual initiation comes into play.
Okay.
Because it's through these venues or choices, priming effects, different circles of life that you encounter, right? You're introduced to your own personal independent path of spiritual initiation.
Can I say something that Chris Brito said?
Go ahead.
She said, I find sometimes I say things and then a catalyst happens for me to do it when it is time. Like she'll put something out there.
Okay.
And then something happens that actually drives her in that direction.
Right. And what I would say to that is that I and again, I think that, what's being demonstrated in that statement is like, that's what you hold as true.
As a truth. So you're looking for something to push you. You're expecting that thing to well, I'm saying this right now, but what? But really, deep down,
yeah,
that push is coming behind that.
Because that's what you feel, and that might be in your innermost being what you're calling forth for your perception, so that you can associate soul to movement.
Right, because it's only a vibration.
100%.
It's movement.